They really do. And I think we just see that in what's going on right now with the dude. What's dude's name? They just got indicted.
Epstein.
I'm trying to think of his name right now.
Jeffrey Epstein.
Huh?
Epstein.
Yeah, Epstein. Epstein. I mean, look at it. Who benefits from reactionary prohibitive industries?
Right.
White males
Exactly.
predominantly. I mean, look at Robert Kraft, the New England Patriots owner. I mean, white men in general are not held to accountability and are not held to the same standards. So I think it's ridiculous that we have white males in society like Epstein, like Robert Kraft, who get slaps on the wrist, who get off on probation or even far less. But then we have sex workers who oftentimes, once they get charged or once they get put into the criminal justice system, even if they wanted to get out of the sex worker industry, how can they? Because now, again, they have charges that are attached to them. They have a record, so on and so forth. So how are they going to pay for these fees? How are they going to pay for their lawyer fees? So it's just a cycle. It's an entrapment cycle like we see so often within the criminal justice system, to where predominantly white males benefit and then black and brown individuals of oppressed classes do not. So it's a huge issue overall.
Absolutely. And of course, criminal justice reform is already a huge topic. And now, I mean, if folks not from the Chicagoland area don't know, starting in January, weed is legal, which is nice. But of course, the war on drugs, and even in places where, we had the marijuana legalization, we still end up with a lot of racism and a lot of racist policies. So can we talk about that a little bit? Because, again, another thing that's near and dear to my heart.
Right. No, for me as well, I think I mentioned earlier, I have a disability. I am a disabled veteran. Myself, I have PTSD and a disease known as Behçet's disease. It's an autoimmune deficiency similar to sarcoidosis. But even prior to that, I've smoked the majority of my life. In high school and college, throughout my life, I've been a smoker. Cannabis is natural. It's from the earth. And I don't think a lot of individuals necessarily understand that in communities primarily like Chicago, oftentimes as youth, we're smoking it because we're self-medicating.
Right.
I have PTSD because I was in the military. Like, I experienced war. I come back home and I'm encountering students and families who have similar symptoms to I do, but they didn't have to travel anywhere to experience war because they're experiencing war on a daily basis within their community. Within their block, whether it's, police violence or whether it's daily violence in the streets, it's a huge issue. So many of our youth are self-medicating. So I've always been a proponent of cannabis legalization, and I'm glad in a sense that it will become legal in January. But again, legalization comes with regulation. And we know that regulation is attached to oppression, because primarily who's going to benefit are these large corporations, these extremely wealthy individuals who are predominantly white. Our local dispensary was family owned. It just got purchased by MedMen. So I've seen, recent purchase by a large conglomerate, a large corporation. And oftentimes black and brown individuals are frozen out from the markets, whether you're talking about just straight up legalization or, medical. I have my medical card. But for me, if you look at what's happening with legalization right now, if I'm not mistaken, anyone who was charged with 30 grams or under is going to be an automatic expungement. That's an issue for me because I feel like it should be just an automatic expungement for everyone. Why are we selecting 30 grams or under? It should just be straight across the board, automatic expungement. And why I say automatic is because, again, if we understand systemic issues, how are we going to expect individuals that, again, have been systemically oppressed? Now they have to do their own research. Now they have to reach out to a lawyer, pay for lawyer fees, so on and so forth, to get their expungements completed. How can we expect them to do that when we know they've been oppressed, when we know they've been directly attacked by this broken system? So I feel like that's not right. I don't agree with that at all. I think anyone charged should receive an automatic expungement, not just for 30 grams or under. I also have an issue with, even though I have my medical card, so it doesn't directly impact me, right now the only individuals that could grow in their homes are medical card holders.
Right.
I have an issue with that as well. I feel like all individuals should be able to grow in their own homes. All individuals are able to have alcohol in their cribs, in their own homes. So why can't all individuals grow cannabis in their own homes? I think that's the issue overall. And then again, as it rolls out, I know the Black Caucus in Chicago, they want to do a study like a year out to see how black and brown communities have been impacted since legalization. But we already know they're going to be frozen out of the industries. They're going to be frozen out of the markets. So many of my former students, they support and provide for their families by selling weed, on the corners, on the streets. They have blocks, so on and so forth, traps whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
So legalization is going to impact the black market. So now where are so many of these individuals who are not going to get hired by these dispensaries, where they're going to make their money?
Exactly.
You know, how is that going to impact our communities? So I think that hasn't been necessarily peeled back and talked about as it should have, because that's going to be a huge issue. You're taking money out of the pockets of the very people that have been disproportionately impacted by the racist war on drugs and the prohibition of cannabis. So, yeah, I mean, it's not perfect at all. You know, thankfully, we do have some wonderful groups out there like Chicago Normal. Shout out to them. My homie Dom, you know, he's doing a lot of work on the Dominique Cornell. So I'm going to be trying to push. I'm going to try to use whatever privilege I have, whatever influence I have to definitely continue to push at a state level. And we already know, no question, we have to push for legalization at a federal level.
Yep, absolutely. I agree 100%. And, you know, I'm excited about the idea of it. I'm not sure, but it seems like on a state level, a lot more states and a lot more cities are willing to legalize. So, I mean, hopefully that's laying a better groundwork for the future and getting things changed on a federal level. I don't know. I mean, I can only hope, but I'm excited to see it.
Yeah. No question. I think it's inevitable, because what happens is, you know, they're going to be surrounding states, you know, whether they are, you know, neighbors to Illinois or neighbors to another state that aren't legal, and they're going to see how the state next to them is prospering, or also prospering within that state, because individuals are, you know, coming into, you know, the neighboring state, bringing cannabis, bringing whatever, and making money. So when you talk about money, and if a government, local government or federal government is not making any, and other people are, you already know it's going to be an issue for them. So they're going to try to figure out a way to regulate it, tax it, and get their hands into that pocket. So it's definitely going to be federal. And it's not because at the end of the day they truly believe in addressing the systemic disproportionate issues that have impacted black and brown. It's always about profit. The same reason they ended slavery, it wasn't because they gave a damn about black bodies.
Right.
It was about the economy. So,
exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
At worst, it's going to be federally legal due to the economic impact.
Yeah, it's wild how when money gets involved, all of a sudden things start to change, isn't it?
Oh, no question. No, it's capitalism, right? They claim it's a free market, but so many of us aren't free. But that's by design as well. So, but yeah, money talks for a lot of people, so no question.
All right, and I don't know how familiar you are with our content, but we are environmentalist nerds,